Hello and welcome to another episode of Plenty in 20. As with every episode, this will be short, sharp, punchy and full of actionable tips. It'll be done in 20 minutes or less. My name's Simon Tyson. I've got over 30 years working in senior executive roles, and what I hope that means for you is that not only will I share my knowledge that I've gained as a consultant working with literally thousands of organisations, I'll hopefully share my lived experience having to deal with many of the same issues that you deal with. I'm also a qualified mediator, so when it comes to mediation, I have worked in many highly complex mediations in workplaces. I just want to go through some of the things we hear from managers and leaders as they grapple with this in their teams. And the first question we get asked is it really my job? Should I actually have to mediate when people are in my team are in conflict? And that's based upon a number of perceptions. The first of which is they're adults. They should sort this stuff out. I shouldn't have to get in and baby them. The things that they're arguing about or in conflict with about are really childish, and they should just sort that out. With time, it'll blow over. Now, I'm going to dispel that one, by the way. Sometimes they're adults, but they become entrenched in a conflict that they are unable to sort out without guidance, and no amount of time will allow it to blow over. What time might do is entrench it and make it even more difficult to resolve than it was in the first place. Many of the most difficult mediations that I've worked on in workplaces have been issues that have been allowed to get far more entrenched than they ever should have, that started out petty, that started out minor and became big because they were neglected. The second thing we hear from managers is that I'm a manager, I'm not a mediator. I really want to emphasize you don't have to be a qualified mediator to deal with disputes in your team. Mediation is a skill as well as a qualification. You just need the skill. It's like coaching your team. You don't need to be a qualified coach, but you need to develop the skill of coaching them. We also hear that I don't have time. I've got all this other stuff to do. I've got the job to get done. I've got results to deliver. I've got other people to worry about. It's not a big deal. There's too much to do without me worrying about petty squabbles. What I can tell you is that without fail, if these issues are not resolved, they will have a spillover impact and they'll start compromising all those things that you're too busy doing to deal with the dispute. They'll start compromising them to the extent that you'll have to put those aside and deal with something that's grown into much higher magnitude than it was originally. If you don't deal with it now, it will take more time down the track. We also hear that it's a job for people and culture or for a professional mediator. If you've seen our Plenty in 20 on conflict, you'll know that one of our concerns is that escalating issues too quickly is shown, the research supports this, embeds the issue and means it's much less likely to ever be resolved as satisfactorily. You might get a resolution through people and culture or through a professional mediator, and there is a time when both are appropriate, but moving there too quickly means that the issue becomes bigger and becomes more entrenched, and positions become a little bit more polarized. Of course, you've got people who are skilled in dealing with that, but as I say, all the research points to the issue being resolved at a surface level, but some of the underlying resentment being exacerbated by the escalation process. And many of the people watching will have been through versions of our leadership programs, and if you have, you'll know that we believe there are three broad roles of a leader. Every other skill that you use sits somewhere underneath each of these. So leader as model is setting the standard that you want to see in your team. Obviously in terms of conflict, in terms of the situations where you might need to mediate, your own behaviour, your own standards are critical. Leader as coach is about working with the individuals and helping them develop their own skills and strategies, encouraging people to sort problems out themselves. If in doubt about that, refer back to the conflict plenty and 20. And the third role is leader as facilitator, which is working with team dynamics. It's when the team needs help getting on the same page, where it needs help collaborating and cooperating, when people need help resolving the conflicts, the concerns, the issues that exist between team members. It is the third role of a leader to get in there and facilitate. And really, that's what you're doing when you mediate. So facilitation is almost interchangeable with mediator. Facilitation is a broader term. It's facilitating the team dynamics. It's facilitating the team environment. Mediation is the really specific application of that when you've got people in conflict. So if that takes away the pressure of being a professional mediator, think of it purely as I'm facilitating team dynamics, and that's absolutely within your zone as a manager. So I'm going to take you through 4 options, and then I'm going to take you through some strategies. The first 4 options, and these are drawn from the conflict plenty in 20 that I just referred to. This is the only real overlap with that plenty in 20. Essentially, there are 4 options that you have when you see people starting to come into conflict. And the first of them, and you'll be surprised by this, given that I've just banged on about you needing to be proactive and needing to get involved, the first is don't get involved. Give them a chance to sort it out. Don't leap in at the first sign of trouble. Otherwise, you become the referee in every issue. You impose a solution rather than leaving them to sort it out. It's absolutely much better if they do sort it out themselves. There's no escalation at all then. They also develop the skills. It enhances relationships. Quality and acceptance of solutions is higher. But you're not doing nothing. You're not sticking your head in the sand and hoping it all goes away. You're proactively monitoring. And as soon as you can see that this is not getting resolved, it's starting to spill over to performance, it's starting to spill over to an impact on other team members, that's when you might move to the second phase. So the second phase is about coaching. You're still getting them to resolve this issue themselves, but now it's with your guidance. You might talk with one, you might highly likely talk with both of them, but individually about, I can see there's an issue, what's your approach, how are you planning to deal with this, how do you think those words will sound when you say them to the other party, could you do that differently, what might it sound like if you were more constructive, etc. That's all coaching. Great questions, a lot of coaching. And the third step, I'll come to the third step in a minute. Before we get to that, I just want to talk to you about some free resources, most of them free, that we offer our network. The first of them is the Plenty in 20, which you're currently listening to. If you register for our Plenty in 20, you will automatically get access to the full year of topics, and you'll automatically get notified every time a new one is released. You'll only need to register once per year. The second resource is our Authentic Leadership, which is a structured online leadership program, a series of 3-hour workshops, plus a whole bunch of other stuff, some individual coaching, etc., over a 6-month period. And you can enter that program at any point in the cycle. You can see there's a discount code there to get $500 off the registration. Our podcast is another fantastic way to get a short, sharp leadership reminder every month. We record one per month. We're trying to keep them punchy and short, and they're on topics that leaders are telling us are really important. It's called The Culture Nerds because we wallow in this stuff. We love it. And the last one I'm going to talk to you about is our newsletter. So every month we create resources around a specific theme. This month is around mediating and facilitating within your team. You'll get the Plenty in 20, you get a blog, you get a pod, you get some other downloadable resources, and you can see them there. You can see that link there. There are many, many resources that are completely free and available to managers and leaders. So let's go back to the content. The third option for you, if you're watching people in conflict, is to facilitate. Now, you'll do that when you've tried coaching and that hasn't worked. They're still stuck. They're still not getting the outcome. Really critically, they're still solving this themselves. It's not your problem. It's their problem, and you want them to take responsibility for it. You're simply providing the framework. So the facilitation part is the mediation part, and that's where I'm going to dig down and give you some tips in a moment. I personally believe it's one of the most challenging jobs for managers. I'm sorry, I've lost control of my mouse here. The fourth option is to escalate, but you should only do that when it can't be resolved and when performance and morale is being impacted, when it's spilling over to other people, when results are suffering. But you might also do that. You might skip to this step when there's potential legal issues, when there's workplace health and safety issues or other safety issues around psychological safety. That might be the trigger, and typically, just depending upon the size of your organisation, you will have agreed times that you should escalate. So while I said avoid escalating too quickly, don't avoid escalating at the right time. And what I've listed there are really the triggers that we see in most organisations. So one non-option is to bury your head and hope it goes away. Unfortunately, that's the option we see a lot of the time, and that's the option that leads to really entrenched issues where I've worked on a mediation in some organisations for 4, 5 and even 6 months because it's become so entrenched by the time any of the real actions are taken. People have left it. They've had very gentle conversations. There's been no solid expectation around this needs to be resolved, etc. And it drags on and on. So don't bury your head. Coming back to something we said right at the beginning, sure, they are adults, I know, but they may lack the skills, they may lack the willingness, they may lack the confidence to sort it out. It's worth examining which of those things is missing, by the way. If it's the willingness, then you need to be pretty firm that this is not okay, this is having an impact. It's not okay to say, oh, we'll just sort of have to work together and do our best. We don't pay to people to come to work and be disruptive, to do the best they can with someone else. We pay them to come to work, produce great work, great technical results, and to be a really positive part of the team. And we should hold them accountable to that. If they're lacking the skills, then hopefully the coaching will help. If it doesn't, then you might have to facilitate or mediate. And if they're lacking the confidence, again, your support, baby steps, and again, getting to facilitation or mediation might be necessary to help them. So the first thing I believe you need is a good framework, a simple process that you can follow that's most likely to get a positive outcome. And I'm going to take you through that framework now and throw some tips in as we go. What I do want to emphasize is this might all happen in one discussion, or you might need to facilitate the process over several meetings. It may take a month, it might take 2 weeks, it might take 3 days, but a meeting on each of those days. You might also have to have individual discussions at some point, potentially up front or potentially part way through the process or the framework I'm about to share with you. You hopefully coach them, so you might have already had some individual discussions, but going into a mediation process, I would always have a one-on-one discussion around expectations, around approach, etc. And if it gets stuck along the way, you might have individual discussions then, and they may be firm discussions where you really do hold people accountable for their behaviour, for their lack of willingness to resolve issues, etc. So your role in the process is to facilitate the process, to manage the process and not solve the problem. Now, I've asked you why, and I told you this about 5 minutes ago, so hopefully it's fresh in your mind. Why don't you solve the problems? The reason is, it's because they're theirs. They're their problems. Sure, they're creating problems for you by not solving their problems, but if you've got people who look at you and say, well, what do you want us to do about it? I want you to figure it out. I want you to behave like adults. I want you to get on well in the workplace. I don't care what you do outside the workplace, but I want your relationship in the workplace to in no way inhibit the results the rest of the team can achieve, and in no way make this an awkward or uncomfortable or tense workplace for others or for yourselves, because without fail, those things flow through to poorer performance and poor engagement, poorer motivation for everyone. So it's their problem. Step one is, and again, I'm going to talk about this as though it's one discussion. Bear in mind that you may break this down. I would set expectations about how they'll behave during the discussion. So don't have a lot of ground rules. Don't have 35 ground rules, but it might be 3 or 4 ground rules. Things like, we'll listen without interrupting. We'll be honest and we won't avoid uncomfortable, but we won't make personal attacks. It's okay to say, I'm really frustrated with your performance on that or the way you speak to me. It's not okay to put a label on that and say you are a X, Y, or Z. So think about the ground rules, and they may vary a little bit based on the individuals you're talking with and your knowledge of the way they might behave. The second step is to have them listen to each other. Almost certainly what they've been doing for however long this dispute's been going on for is talking about what's important to them without ever actually having heard what's important for the other person. So often, by listening to each other and hearing what's important for each other, the problem actually becomes smaller. There's a whole bunch of assumptions that have sometimes been made about what people expect. So have them listen to each other without interrupting. Really critically here, someone's going to go first. The second person should not give a rebuttal of what the first person says. They're both individually expressing what's important for them, not responding to each other at this stage. The third step is to have them talk about, so once they've spoken about what's important to each other, what's important to themselves, and they've listened to each other, as they're doing that, my suggestion is to make a little bit of a hit list. And a hit list, don't call it a hit list because you don't want the word hit to come into this situation at all. But my suggestion is it's almost like a mini agenda. And you might find that by listening to both of them, there's about 3 or 4 or 5 things that need to be resolved. This takes a little bit of practice, but I would try and put them in a logical sequence to discuss. Is there something that seems to be at the core of the whole thing? Put that first. Is there something that can't be resolved until something else is resolved? Obviously sequence them accordingly. But create a little bit of an agenda or hit list. Put that on a whiteboard, put that on a sheet of paper and put it down in front of you all. And suggest that insist that you're going to walk through those one at a time. So you'll talk about each issue, then you'll move to the next one. It doesn't, and so I'm going to move to that next slide now, which is the 4th step. Discuss each item one at a time. Move on when it's been discussed, not when it's been solved. So have it explored. That should throw up some potential solutions or potential compromises, but just note those and then move on to the next one. Don't start the actual solving until I've talked about all the issues. The fifth step is once they've talked about each one, and this could take, if there's 3 issues, it could take 30 or 40 minutes because each of those issues might take 10, 15 minutes. They may take longer. And this is often a time at which you might say, we've made really good progress today, let's pick this up tomorrow. Once you've talked about each of the issues, then move to solutions. So it's okay, we've looked at the 3 issues or the 4 issues, we've talked about what's important to each of us on each of those issues. Based on all of that, what solutions do you both have? And get them to throw around, well, we could do this or we could do that. And again, don't dig too deeply into this. It's a brainstorming process, so get everything written down. Once they've sort of exhausted that, and again, prior to this might be a time where you say, I think we need to go away and reflect and think. Tomorrow we're going to come back and look at solutions. If you think the momentum's there, keep them talking. And ask them, here's all the solutions you've come up with. Who wants to have a go at putting those into something that you think both of you might be able to work with, both of you might be able to live with? The final step, and I'm aware of the time, is agreement and follow-up. So they're really separate steps, but it's sort of 6A and 6B. Once they've proposed solutions, you should reiterate it and say, so what you're telling me is this is the solution. Is that what you both heard? Is that acceptable to both of you? Now, of course, you have to decide as the manager whether it's acceptable to you. I have seen people come up with solutions that as a manager, I think are completely unacceptable. We'll just work in different areas. We'll make sure we're not in the same projects. We'll just avoid each other. No, not okay. You come to this workplace, you accept that you're paid to be in the workplace. The trade-off for that is that you perform at a high level and that you work effectively as a team. So I'm going to be really strong on those things, and I'm not going to accept solutions that are really not solutions. They're just avoidance. So confirm the solution, assuming that you're happy with it, and then make sure that you check in. That could be individually, it could be collectively. You should do that within a week. You should probably check in with each individual within a couple of days, and then continue to check in and make sure they're on track until you feel like, okay, we've sort of moved through that and this is now bedded into the new normal. That's it for Plenty in 20 this month. Please, if you really enjoy this, if you think there's value, let other people know. This is so integral to people finding our resources and to us growing our business. Would really love your support. Scan the barcode there and leave a quick review. Some stars are nice, a few words are even better. Thank you again for attending, and please look out for the other resources on the website related to this topic this month. See you in the next Plenty in 20.